Good morning. I'd like to call this commission meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take a moment of silent prayer. Make sure you silence all your cell phones, please. Thank you. I'll begin the roll call this morning with Commissioner Mike Stephen. Here. Commissioner Vicki Cos.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Jeff Culbertson's here. Commissioner Doug Smith.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Public comment. This morning I have one signed up for public comment, Gerald Cooper. Would you like to come up and speak? Please come up to the mic and state your name and address for the record, please. Good morning.
Good morning to the council.
Good morning.
I presented this a couple weeks ago, and to be right honest, I never heard from anybody, and when I called up here, everybody was gone.
I was going to bring this up today.
So you do have copies of it?
Yeah, I got it. I was going to bring it up today in admin business. But...
Okay. Do I have to read it?
You can if you'd like.
I can.
You can if you'd like.
Okay.
We've all got copies of it, though, but you can read it if you'd like.
This is a petition to the Leavenworth County Commissioners. Sometime in the summer of 2021, as I was corrected this morning. So in the summer of 2021, the Leavenworth County Department of Roads graded and laid asphalt on the south end of the north end of 178th Street between the U.S. Highway 24 and Leavenworth Road. This surfacing project entailed around 8 properties on the south and about 9 properties on the north end. This project was designed as a dust abatement project and is to this day a dust project. Like many unfinished projects, this is a dirty, dusty, and hazardous situation with the potential of a serious fatality due to the loose rock and the noxious dust caused by the speeding cars and trucks on this road that is not paved. Part of it's paved on the north, part of it's paved on the south, nothing in between. And by the grace of God, no one has been killed or injured on this road yet. So, let's get it finished before the inevitable does happen, because it will. 178th Street is not an ordinary county or a country roadway. It is the main north and south thoroughfare between the U.S. Highway 24 and Leavenworth Road. It is the only straight north and south roadway connecting Leavenworth Road to the Kansas Highway, and is therefore a heavily traveled day and night. The unpaved section is not only dangerous to drive, it is destructive to the automobiles and trucks, and it is a danger and a health hazard for Leavenworth County citizens, taxpayers that live on 178th Street. So what can be needed to finish a much needed, worthy, and exigent project? Spreading more loose rock and rock dust does not solve the problem or correct the issue. I've talked to all of the homeowners along the unfinished road project, and all of them are in unanimous agreement the road can be widened and should be widened on the north side of Hogue Creek Bridge. And both the Wests and the Jacobs are the landowners, and both are in agreement with widening the road in front of their properties.
Okay.
Now, I've also talked to Bill Noble, and he kind of explained a lot of things to us here this morning that we were totally unaware of, which was helpful. So I think it lies in the hands of the commissioners. That's what it sounded like to me.
It's all about money. If we had enough money, we'd pave all the roads in the county.
A lot of money?
Yeah.
Well,
If we had enough money, we'd pave all the gravel roads, but we don't. So
yeah,
that's the unfortunate
everybody's
part.
short on money.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yep.
But this is a worthwhile project, and it really is a through thoroughfare from Leavenworth Road to the 24 highway,
Yep.
and it's the only one.
Okay.
The only one.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I think we're going to have Bill reach out to you because there are several other options that are available to you. So I think we'll have Bill talk to you about some of these other options.
We went through the options.
Did you? Okay.
The point he hasn't made yet was that what we were informed on is, as far as where the money is already allotted to and stuff like that, but this project was well before some of these others and didn't get finished, and we understand it was people not agreeing at that time or something, but I talked to them back then, and it was just about replacing fences. It wasn't about giving the land or anything. Everybody was willing to give the land. And
hey, sir, could you introduce yourself? Come
Yeah,
to the
come
mic.
up to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you.
I'm Jared Cooper. I'm Gerald's son.
Okay.
I live on 178th as well. I'm his next door neighbor.
Okay.
And so, yeah, our part of the road was already widened, and we had already given all the land for the paving project. And if anything, we were even wondering why, it didn't get finished in front of our property since we gave all the land for it. But we got skipped over as well back there in 2021. So our point is that this project was ahead of some others that are now currently on the list to do. We understand that now we're put off another 6 years. My dad's 94. He'd like to see it done before he's gone. And so that's what we'd like you to consider is maybe moving 178th Street up on the project list and see the importance of it, and maybe hold off on something else that could wait the other 6 years before we have to renew that money that we have dedicated to it.
Okay.
So that's what we would like for you guys to consider.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time and
Thank
you for coming
listening
in.
to us.
Yep. Thank you. I don't have any other people signed up for public comment. Anyone in the room have public comment? If not, we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lothar, you have anything this morning for administrative? Any of the commissioners?
I don't.
I'll touch on this 178th Street.
Okay.
I mean, we brought it up before at budget time to connect all these roads that have these gaps in them, but we just haven't had the money. But the north end of that road was, I believe the property owners paid for that paving on that one. And then the south end was when we did the sales tax money and we spent down the funds in the townships to do that, and that's all the further they had money to go for.
As far as they could go.
But yeah, there was a road construction project to try to get more sight distance around that corner and regraded there. There was also a new bridge installed, probably in 2014, down there over the creek there. But yeah, this is a candidate
So there's
for
$1 million.
connectivity.
Is it $1 million bridge?
No, that's
Small.
back before bridges. I think it was only $300 and something $1,000
wow.
bridge,
Only.
but now they're $1 million bridges.
Yeah.
Thanks to inflation. but I'm trying to remember what year we did got the sight distance, cleaned that hill up. But anyway, there's been a lot of work done down there. But then north of the bridge is where the banks are straight up and down. It needs to be widened on that. It's a project through there. You can't crowd it enough to get a decent road top.
Okay.
Anyways, it's something we need to talk about at budget, which we're talking about now, whether we're going to be able to fund some of these roads to connect them.
That kind of brings me to one of the comments that I wanted to make, and I think that we need some clarification made regarding when we declare that we're not going to be revenue neutral, that there are requirements that have to be met in order for us to discuss the budget and what we can or won't do. So I thought maybe that Mr. Lothry might be able to kind of educate the public yet again a little bit about the process that the Board of County Commissioners has to go through in order to even discuss our budget and what we will or will not be able to do, or cuts that we might make, or things that we might add.
Yep.
So do you have anything to offer on that?
Well, Commissioners, first, on the road projects, we discuss them every year. We set priorities and we try to allocate funding towards them, obviously, and we're limited by the amount of money we have. As we've discussed throughout this year's budget process, last year's budget process, probably the year before that, we don't have enough money coming into the Road and Bridge Fund to adequately maintain the roads we already have. So improving new roads really is something that the Commission really needs to consider whether we can even do that. Asphalt roads cost more to maintain than rock roads. So as we're having those kind of conversations, those start years in advance, not days in advance, not months in advance, years in advance. So the particular project that we're talking about today, there are opportunities for the owners to pave it themselves, like Commissioner Smith mentioned. They did that on a section of this road already. As far as our budget process goes, we've discussed, the County Commission has discussed adding additional revenue or tax in order to fund the road department and add, last year I think we added $1.5 million, and the conversation is, so far we haven't actually approved it, but the conversation is potentially doing another mill this year, which would generate about $1 million more to go into that fund. And that's just so that we can try to maintain what we already have. That's not for new projects. But the way that process works, because of some of the things that our legislators have adopted to I guess, what they consider would make transparency, also puts us in a position where long before we have the budget, they require that you say, what's your maximum mill levy? So before you can even have these conversations about what you may or may not levy for that fund, you have to set the levy. You have to set the cap. It's kind of silly. So I have a guideline here from the Office of Accounts and Reports of Municipal Services, which basically lays out what our timeline is on that. So by July 20th, we have to notify the county clerk what the maximum mill levy is that you're going to be considered. So, and that's not just you, that's all taxing entities. By July 20th, they have to have that in. Despite the fact that you don't actually have to approve your budget until sometime before September 20th. So 2 months in advance, you have to say what your maximum might be so that you can spend the time to actually debate what it's going to be. So we, in our case, we won't actually approve our budget until the end of August. August 28th, I think is the date. But we had to tell a month early, we have to tell the clerk what we might consider. And so you have to do that just so that you can then have an open conversation about what the actual mill levy is going to be. So all the entities have to do that, not just us, all taxing entities. Or you have to say revenue neutral. And what revenue neutral means is you have to reduce services, cut expenditures, because there is inflation. If we were in a time of no inflation, revenue neutral sounds great, but in a time of inflation, that actually means by staying revenue neutral, you're reducing services and cutting
But if the state would give us our LAVTR, we could remain revenue neutral.
Well, the $4 million of ours that they're retaining, yes, that would absolutely, it would not just.
Go a long ways on roads, wouldn't it?
It would not just allow you to remain revenue neutral, but it would allow you to lower property taxes because it's not just our money. They're also withholding money from the townships and the cities. So all of that comes back to our county where it can be spent. It's collected in our county and then distributed throughout the state. We're just asking that you collect it in our county and give it back to us. And they instead, as you're all aware, the legislators, that's legislation that's been on the books for decades. They've failed to follow their own law for decades. And then this year they actually just said, well, so you'll quit asking us. We're just going to repeal that. So they took it off the books. It doesn't even exist.
All right, so you need to thank your state legislature
But-
for that.
But last I checked, they're still collecting it. They didn't remove the collection.
Right, they're
No,
still
that-
They
collecting
just
our money.
removed the part where they pay the cities and the counties.
There
They're
was
still
sales
collecting.
tax that's collected that they had pledged decades ago. I mean, I'm talking maybe before I was born.
1935.
So
38.
that they were going to collect the sales tax and then distribute it back to the local taxing entities. And the LAVTR that we're referring to, that stands for Local Ad Valorem Tax Relief. Ad valorem taxes are what you pay on your property. So that's the mill levy we refer to. That's how we generate revenue at the county. The county is particularly hit hard by it because we don't have sales tax that goes back towards operations. The sales tax we collect goes only for road improvement. It doesn't pay wages. It doesn't pay operating costs. So the local ad valorem taxes impacts counties harder even than the cities who have the opportunity to use their sales tax for operational expenditures, which I think all of the cities in our county do, the larger cities do.
So just a clarification, on the revenue neutral, if we don't vote to exceed revenue neutral, our mill levy automatically drops to the level where you'd be neutral compared to last year.
Yes, it would generate the exact same amount of tax dollars as last year did. And that also then doesn't allow you to take into consideration lost revenue from other sources. So when you lose mortgage filing fees, the only way the county can offset that is by an increase in property tax. When you lose other sources of revenue that we've lost over the years, the only way to offset that is an increase in property taxes. That just happens. But the revenue neutral legislation that was adopted doesn't take that into consideration. They don't look at your overall revenue. They only look at your tax revenue. So as I've told all of you, our property tax is a little over 50% of our actual revenue right now. It was more like 30% before they did away with LAVTR, before they did away with mortgage filing fees.
State unfunded mandates.
So all the unfunded, well, that doesn't even take into consideration the unfunded mandates, which are mandates that the state of Kansas makes us pay the money, and then we tax our local constituents for it. So all those things. So as we lose these revenue streams, our property taxes have to go up, or our services have to go down. So when you have people who come in and talk about their paved roads or versus unpaved roads, their gravel roads, those are all things that we fund with property taxes. So if you pave a road, property taxes will go up because maintenance on that road costs more. That's if everything stays the same. But when you have inflation like we've had, which is more than double digit, despite what you may read in the newspaper, inflation on our operations is more like 20 to 30%. When you have those things and you stay revenue neutral, that means you're reducing your services by that amount in order to stay revenue neutral, which is why the county has not stayed revenue neutral since they passed this legislation. Which
I think one thing
is
else, Mark, to note, make sure everybody understands is this was the year that we could have got caught up. The Topeka announced themselves I think it's about $4 billion in surplus, that the money could have been sent back to the counties and the cities to offset and be able to do the things that we've had people come in for the last 6 months wanting to be done. Instead, they chose not to. Now, this was the year to do it, and last year was the year to do it. When you got that much surplus, you need to put that money where it's going to do the citizens the best, and they chose not to.
And the other
saying
thing,
I'm close to $5 billion surplus.
Yeah.
Billion with a B.
And
that they collected from the taxpayers of this state, and they refused to distribute it back to help offset taxes.
And that's what we need to make sure everybody understands now is we raised so much attention about the LAVTR that the state just repealed it and said we're just not going to pay it to the cities and counties anymore. But what they don't tell you is they're still collecting the 1.5% sales tax that was to go to LAVTR. So they didn't repeal that part of the law. They're still collecting your LAVTR funds. They're just now legally not required to give it to you. So I don't get it.
Well, I just wanted to make clear that in order for us to even have our discussions when we do the budget hearing and to talk about what we will or won't do or can or can't do, we had to give a maximum amount that we would levy in order to even have that discussion. And so I just want to make clear that it has nothing to do with what the final approved,
What we're actually going to do.
what we actually will do. It's so that we can sit and have a discussion. We don't get to have the privilege of talking to each other outside of meetings and declaring what we think is best or whatever.
Right.
We have to do that right here in public in front of everyone.
Yeah,
and so it gives us an opportunity to really be able to have an open discussion regarding the needs and the services that we are required to perform and those that we may or may not want to. That's the only way we can do that.
And that's a good point because Mr. Cooper sent all of us this letter. So if 3 of us would have responded to you, that'd be considered a serial meeting and we'd have violated an open meeting. So that's why I was going to bring it up today in the meeting, in a public meeting.
So a point I've been making, and we've done this for 2 years, and we've been talking about this, is if this is your dollar of property taxes, this sheet represents your dollar of your property taxes, your county commission controls about that much. That's what we control of your property tax dollars. Your school district,
They're in Baser School District.
controls about that much of your property tax dollar. So when you're talking, I know that your bill says Leavenworth County on it, but we don't, even if we lower our mill significantly, if your other local governments are raising their mill or passing bond issues or et cetera, then your property taxes are not going to see a decline. And then the other part that's driving it is the way our Kansas appraisal and valuation system is set up, driven by comparable sales, driving it up all the time. So when the values are going up, your taxes are going up. And Kansas, 26 states have a cap on property taxes. Kansas does not. So
we could have done that.
we had a lot. We've advocated for the cap. Your commissioners have, and we've also asked them to fund what they had on the books since 1938 or 35 in the 30s to give some of this sales tax money to help offset property taxes, and your legislators refused to fund that. And it would have reduced your county portion, this little portion, it would have reduced just this little portion by $4 million. And then your cities and your townships, they all would have also been able to reduce theirs because they would have got a share of that LAVTR as well. So what was done in Topeka, especially when they have a $4 billion surplus, is unconscionable.
I agree.
Yep, I agree, Mike.
But it's easy to blame the local governing bodies instead of accepting responsibility for and admit that you're wrong and that you need to do something to fix it.
And we do want to put these on the CIP. We want to pay for a lot more of these roads, but when we sit down and look at the 5-year plan, the money is really tight.
That's right.
Anyway.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for administrative?
We're going to talk about the budget at the end of our meeting today. Hoping, anyways.
Yep. It's on there.
It is.
Okay. No other administrative business. We can move on to consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Steben.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda passes. Formal board actions. Consider a motion To approve and sign a proposal with Health Gauge for the annual health assessment screening. Morning, Jamie.
Morning, Commissioners. In front of you is the proposal for the annual health assessments for the county employees. I was able to negotiate with Health Gauge to maintain the per-person costs that we have over the last 3 years without any increase. They did propose, obviously, some travel costs and some increase into that, but because we've done this for so many years and back, I was able to secure the same cost with them in regards to that. So before you is the proposal for the commission to enter into that for the county employees. That this assessment over the years, we have had success stories come out of that for employees that have had some pretty significant health threats, if you will. Mr. Cullerson raising his hand over
Yeah,
there. So,
blood pressure was 180 over 120, and I didn't know until I did that assessment thing.
yeah. So
Yeah, it works well.
Again, this is not
He's
your
okay.
average.
Yeah, that's what they
This
said.
is not your average physical with your physician or anything else. Things that are being evaluated in here are really some silent killers that you may not be
Yeah.
aware of
Yeah.
for our employees. It's
Yeah.
a good thing. So my recommendation is obviously for the county to continue doing this as part of our wellness program.
One more thing that we add for the county employees, and plus it can save their life. And even it only saves 2 or 3 because that blood pressure is a killer.
Is this available for retirees that are still on our health insurance or not?
It's not something we've considered in the past, but I don't see why not.
I was going to say, if they're on our health insurance, we need to do everything we
tie
can
them
for
together.
health maintenance.
I don't see
Well,
why
yeah,
we
because
wouldn't open it
all
up.
tied in
affects
together.
our
Whatever.
Yeah.
ratings.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that should be offered.
Yeah.
It's not going to cost that much, and it
No, and I
affects,
understand
and
it.
overall it affects, in
affects
the
our
end,
usage.
our
Rates.
usage and ratings
Yep.
when we're
Yep.
And
discussing
one
our
thing to
premiums.
note on this, Commissioners, this year we've added an extra day as well as some split times. So we're also going to go into the evening to offset. So that way, if we do have some individuals that need those
Their
evening
shifts.
hours or whatnot,
Yeah.
Good.
the first 2 days we'll be going until 8 o'clock. It's appointment based, so we'll have that out there and be able to know really where
Okay.
we're at. But that expands kind of the catch to be able to get as many employees that we
Yeah.
can. That was one of the big things that was kind of the voiced by employees that all the appointment times were kind of together and in the morning or early afternoon. This will allow us to have a couple evening time slots and such for those that need that.
Well, if we're going to add retirees, we need to make sure we have a communication mechanism in place to make sure they are aware. that
Yeah.
that's
I can get with HR on who's
Right.
on our
Yeah.
insurance.
Health, that's basically whoever's on our health insurance.
Right,
I think
just to
should
send them a
offer.
notice that they know.
It is open to all employees.
Right.
They don't have to be on our insurance. It's open to all employees. But it does make sense to also
Yeah.
notify those who are on our insurance still as retired.
That's a good point. I think unless there's other consideration, I'd like to make a motion, approve and sign the proposal with Health Gauge for the annual health assessment screening.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Thank you,
Thank you.
Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Next up, consider a motion to approve the contract with Ebert Construction for the replacement of Bridge HP 36 on 187th Street in the amount of $866,750 with a 5% contingency. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today for your consideration is the contract with Ebert Construction for the replacement of HP 36. It is located on 187th Street at Stranger Road, just north of the co-op. This will be a significant road closure. We did bid the project and received multiple bids. Previously, the board had accepted the low bid by Ebert Construction, and we had issued a notice of award, which then did kick this contract into being completed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The project is scheduled to start approximately August 15th.
You know, my question is going to be, as it is on every bridge we do now, Is this a bridge that we have to keep open, or is it one we could possibly
County
close?
Road 29.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bridge that needs to be done immediately. If it wasn't going to be replaced, it would be dropped to a 3-ton weight limit. And with the shop being located on that roadway and the co-op, and I believe that road gets approximately 2,000 or 2,200 cars a day.
Yeah, it's used.
It's used a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest travel counts that we have in the county,
Yep.
county road. So.
So now,
So you're out of luck on that one.
Yeah, this one's not a candidate.
probably not good.
And part of the cost of this project is driven by the road realignment.
Mm-hmm.
So the road to the leading to the east has to be realigned to the north. The new bridge will be about 20 feet wider than the old bridge, because the old bridge is a bit of a choke point for our Division of Water Resources permit. And in order to design the road at a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, we had to do some roadway work and take out a little bit of the grading. So it has a little bit more road work involved in it than most bridge projects would have. And that is reflected in the cost.
Okay. Any other questions for Bill?
This one definitely stayed open as long as we could. It's getting close to being closed. Another winter of salt getting down in there probably finish it off.
Freeze thaw.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve contract with Ebert Construction for the replacement of Bridge HP 36 on 187th Street in the amount of $866,750 with a 5% contingency.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting with Commissioner Stephen.
Aye.
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 All right.
Motion passes. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill?
Next, consider a motion to accept a bid from Tranter for architectural and engineering services for the restoration of the courthouse in the amount of $323,500 with a 10% contingency.
Commissioners, Aaron is out today at a training, so he rather than cancel that, I told him I would cover this. As you're aware, where we are with the courthouse, we have a lot of issues going on that we're trying to fix. We solicited proposals from architectural firms to handle the design, the bidding, the project management, and also to assist us with submitting this to the state Historical Society for tax credits. These are the proposals that came in. We narrowed it down to 2 through a committee. That committee evaluated both proposals, and then we had those 2 submit an approximate cost to us. Trainer submitted a lower overall cost to the county, plus it was a fixed cost, whereas the other firm was based on the construction prices, and since we don't know what that would be, it was kind of open-ended. Both were very qualified, so staff is recommending we go with Trainer and let them get started on this right away so we can get bids going. They also did the inspection on the outside of the building and came up with a safety plan for us already.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So can you kind of review the expertise this company has with historical buildings?
I have their proposal, which has not all of it, but a lot of their work. But they have done multiple courthouses, both in Kansas and Missouri. I think maybe even Nebraska as well. They also worked on the Capitol building, state Capitol building. So we are familiar with them. They've done work for us before. Very impressed with the team that they have. And one of the things that we asked is their availability to make sure that we weren't going to get somebody on here and they were going to push us to the back burner because of the issues.
Yeah.
They were able to demonstrate that they have the team ready to go on this. If this is approved, they have the team ready.
Yeah. Hey, I got nothing. After chance, we had to review it. They looked pretty well. We had some good companies come in. There's 2 that we really took a hard look at, but this one to me was the one to go with. With that being said, I'll make a motion to accept a bid from Trainer for architectural engineering services for the restoration of the courthouse in the amount of $323,500 with a 10% contingency.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting with Commissioner Stephen.
Hi.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Next, consider a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-18 and approve the rezoning as outlined in case DEV 24075 based on the findings of golden factors as set forth in the staff report and as substantiated by the findings of fact as adopted by the Planning Commission. Morning, Amy and John.
All right, before you is case DEV 2475, which is a request to rezone from R5 to R2.5. The property in question is on Cantrell Road. It currently does not have an address. The applicant is requesting this because they would like to replat this lot into 3 lots. 2 lots on the south do not have the minimum frontage required under the R5 zoning district. So they are requesting a rezone to the R2.5, which would be compliant in that zoning designation. The future land use map does designate this as County Road 1. However, this was a portion of County Road 1 that was not rezoned as part of the hard zoning. However, no designation for future land use map was determined at the time that rezoning took place. It is adjacent to property to the east that is designated for residential 2.5 according to our future land use map. So they made the request based off of that connectivity to current or the land use map rezoning. The Planning Commission did review this case and they recommended approval to this body of the rezone request. So if you have any other questions, please let us know.
It's too bad you weren't here last week when this neighborhood was all in a discussion. I think this would have been real fitting.
Anybody have any questions for Amy or John?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-18 and approve the rezoning as outlined in case DEV 24-075 based on the findings of the golden factors as set forth in the staff report and is substantiated by the findings of fact as adopted by the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, begin voting with Commissioner Stephen.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Next, consider a motion that the proposed special use permit as outlined in case DEV 24030 be approved with conditions that the findings on the golden factors as set forth in the staff report as adopted by the Planning Commission and as substantiated by facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by this board and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of this approval. That this board adopt Resolution 2024-19.
All right, for you is case DEV 2430, which is a special use permit request for an event center located at 21576 155th Street. This property is currently zoned RR 2.5 with a future land use designation of mixed use. The applicant is requesting to operate an event center out of a barn that was built prior to 1930. They have updated the barn to include an event space, 2 bathrooms, and a warming kitchen. They have indicated that they will not provide catering services in-house, but potential partygoers can use third-party caterers to provide food on site as well as bartending services. They are requesting occupancy at 150 attendees for outdoor events and 99 attendees for indoor events. They have provided the required parking spaces on site, and they have additional parking if overflow parking does occur. They do have an existing entrance that they are proposing to widen to meet the requests of the Planning, Public Works, and Fire Department for that area. In addition, they have also requested that the events will be from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekends and 5 to 10 p.m. on weekdays. The employment situation would be the property owners would be full-time employees for this event space, and they would hire out part-time employees as needed. In addition to that, they will also allow DJ services to operate at this event space. Other than that, staff did provide recommended conditions of approval to the Planning Commission. They did consider that and recommended approval to this body. However, after that took place, staff did receive an email from the applicant about their application to the State Fire Marshal's office. They were notified that that would take place within 30 days. The decision would be made. So staff is recommending tabling this at this time.
be a good thing.
That's what I was just going to ask. Did we hear back from the fire marshals yet?
We've not heard back from the fire marshal's office yet, but they have determined it'd be within 30 days they'll make that review.
Okay, so you want us to table this until you do?
That's our recommendation, so you have the additional information.
I mean, this is not a new building. This was built prior to the codes.
That's correct.
So,
But what about renovations?
and what's the square footage? Are we under the square footage on this?
Less than 1,500.
It does not require sprinkler systems. The occupant load is less than
Oh, it
100.
doesn't require, so what would the state fire marshal have then to say?
Well, the state fire marshal wants to review pretty much anything that is not single-family currently. Their requirements for anything less than 100 occupants is simply a scale drawing between 100 occupants and 2,000 occupants. Post 2,000 occupants, they want engineered code footprints and drawings to review. So it would be, in my opinion, a cursory review. However, the information came in on Friday of last week, and just so you have all the information, that's why staff made the recommendation that we did.
I'd say we could approve it pending on the.
Conditional.
Yeah, on the fire marshal thing, because it's under,
That way we don't have to bring it
don't
back.
have to bring it back.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I want to be just overly cautious, but the email that we have from the fire district says they do not support it. They don't support it because it hasn't had fire marshal review yet. There's an email from the fire marshal's office that says they will do that review within 30 days. I think from a consistency standpoint, it would be prudent for the county commission to
Wait
until we hear from the fire marshal's office, which we're a week in now, so I think you're talking about a 3-week process.
And I know in the past, when we've had a recommendation, we have waited for the other information to come in. I hope this wouldn't harm him for 30 days, but I can't vote yes until I get that information from the state fire marshal's office.
Okay.
David's got something for you, Jeff.
Commissioners,
Yes, sir.
you need to set this to a time and date certain, so
Right.
Specific.
please consult your calendar to do so.
30 days?
I don't know,
Back on
maybe
30 days?
3 weeks?
How long was it ago? Was it
So it's already
submitted?
been-
Last Friday.
Yeah, so 3 weeks? Then if we need to
We can.
extend it out, we can.
Go ahead and put it on for 3 weeks, and if we
I
have
think
to,
so.
we can move it
Wednesday,
again.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Somebody want to make that motion?
I move that we table the proposed special use permit, DEV 24-30, until
August 21st would be 3 weeks, Commissioner.
August 21st, 2024.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second.
So if this thing comes in next week, we're going to have to wait till the 21st to approve this.
So do we want to do it in 2 weeks? I want to make sure that we,
Or we could bump it up,
On the
too.
table at any time.
Commissioners, because this is a special use permit and requires notice to be given to the adjoining property owners,
Right.
the time and
Oh.
date of the hearings
Yep.
is set, be provided to those people by
Right.
public notice. No, you cannot pull it off. You have to set it for a date and time certain.
Okay.
Well, we've already moved it up from 30 days. I think the 3 weeks is probably, hopefully, we get that information in.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Stephen.
I
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. We've tabled it. Thank you, folks. Presentation and discussion items, quarterly reports, information systems, first on the list. Hi, Larry. Hi. I didn't see you back there. Thought I was going to have to bump it. Sneaky.
Well, an item I would like to speak with the board about from this written report would be Senate Bill 291. I believe you're familiar with Senate Bill 291.
Refresh my memory.
It's where the state will take over IT
Oh,
for district courts and a variety of
Yes,
other
yeah.
state agencies. Because of the cybersecurity event of last October with OJA, we've had a unprecedented level of communication with OJA since that time. So I'm very familiar with OJA's intention with Senate Bill 291. I haven't heard from any other state-related offices of any impact from 291. But when I read the description of it, it seems to imply it's across the board. Highway Patrol, KBI, State Treasurer, Insurance Commissioner, and so on. So I was kind of curious if the board is aware of any other state offices other than OJA that are doing something related to Senate Bill 291.
I'm not.
Crickets?
Nope.
OJA has very big plans, and it's a massive project. And we spoke about it in several of the various meetings that we had. I don't know how they're going to pull it off by 2027. It just seems like another deadline that nobody's going to be able to make, but it's a wonderful, I support it, the whole premise, and I believe the commission has expressed support for Senate Bill 291. Sounds wonderful. I just don't know how they'll pull it off by 2027, because it's a very complex thing to take all the district courts and put them completely under the state. You got physical aspects as well as just the digital. The digital part, okay, but what about the physical premise and the physical cabling in the walls? Is the state going to administrate that? It goes
They
to
might
the physical.
administrate it, but we're probably going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Another unfunded mandate.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the implementation will happen, and I think the OJA folks are working really hard trying to figure out how they're going to accomplish this as well.
Well, let's just not get the unemployment insurance portion of the government involved.
Well,
send it over to
Have they fixed that? Have they fixed that yet?
I'm just glad I don't work in any of these state offices that are being tasked with that project. But that's one of the things I've been puzzling about the most is how they will handle that, especially with the building over there. And we don't have a lot of network closets. We don't want to give off half of a closet for the state to put a bunch of equipment in. And we have 2 new circuits coming in where the state is upgrading, for instance, the Department of Revenue is upgrading the circuit for the Treasurer's office. We didn't know about that until it took quite a bit of cajoling to find out why this AT&T contractor kept wanting to do a site survey, and we eventually found out that the Department of Revenue is upgrading that circuit. Okay, but we never hear from the Department of Revenue on what are you doing? Why are you upgrading the circuit? What's your plan? We never get a notice of their intention. We just sometimes get a visit from some contractor that wants to run some wire in the building. So we shoo them away because we don't know why they're here. We had an AT&T guy show up at the Justice Center. We sent him packing because all he could say is, well, something to do with the state. That's not good enough. We need to know why you're here.
Credentials, is it?
It's just really weird. So I'm wondering what the other offices are doing, and nobody's hearing anything. I don't hear anything, which is fine, but you're not hearing anything either, right?
No, and I think for
No,
security purposes,
and the
one
state's
would
so
think that all of those communications would take place.
It's kind of interesting.
It does look suspicious.
It
when somebody
could.
comes up and
Just
hey, I'm
shows
here
up.
to do something.
Yeah, and it's usually a subcontractor, so it's not even really an
I
agency.
just run wire.
That's crazy.
So we just
We're
tell them, sorry, I
in
can't come
today.
in.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, you just show up and say, "Oh, I'm from AT&T," and okay.
Huh.
I'm sure there'll be more information following, hopefully.
The MOU is still under development. All the other cybersecurity committee items, they're still working on those. The MOU has not been completed. They're also working on a policy for the rules of how the committee is conducted and confidentiality requirements and all kinds of other stuff. Much like all the other deadlines, these things seem to take a long time.
Yeah.
They'll be hashing that out after I'm gone, probably.
David, you had something?
Well, Commissioners, I'd like to say Larry and his staff did present a memorandum of understanding that OJA submitted to us. We found objectionable items in it, sent it back to OJA. We have not heard back, I believe.
February, wasn't it?
February.
Yes.
I would state this. Your local district court is as concerned about these issues as you are, and they have been very open and receptive to recommendations that we've made. So it's not a locally driven situation. It's from Topeka down, and we're keeping an eye on it.
Absolutely. District Court has been very cooperative through this entire thing. I have no complaints whatsoever of anybody over there. So it's an odd thing that's going on, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out.
Maybe it's a step in the right direction. Maybe the state will just take over the whole court system and fund it.
That is their intention with Senate Bill 291.
Yeah.
Take it
They need to
over
fund it.
completely.
And fund it.
Then we don't have to
fund
budget. And fund it.
Yeah.
But they need to
Oh, well,
fund
they
it.
won't pay
With
for
the
all the
price
tag.
supplies, will they?
With the price
Or
tag.
jury expenses, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be other. But
No, that's what I'm
IT-wise,
saying. Hopefully this will transition into they just take over everything and we don't have to fund it.
Well, it could be pervasive. I was asking, Bob Weber, I said, has you heard anything through PVD? Because they're under one of these branches about this new CIO and the implications of all this cybersecurity from 291. He said, no. And I'm pretty sure if I ask the treasurer, no. Nobody has any information on. This should be creating a ripple effect, you would expect, right?
Well, you would
But
think.
we're not hearing.
Maybe they have a non-disclosure sign.
Could be. Or maybe they're trying to figure it out, and it is a very complicated thing. So I don't know. I'm just nervous about that.
Not our page or anything.
That's true. Other than that, is there anything else the commission had? Any questions of me? I'd be happy to answer anything you can think of.
I didn't see anything.
Hearing none.
180 over 120 is horrible. You should be ashamed.
Right?
Yeah, I told him. He told
That's
me.
why I'm a big
You
believer.
should have known something was
From this job.
Dizzy.
And Commissioner, there are donuts.
I ate them all. I already got them. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry. I love your shirt.
Yeah, that's one you don't want a good score on.
It's like
I love it. It's cute.
Next quarterly report, EMS Health Department. Hi, Jamie. Yeah, I'm a big believer in this health assessment thing. I think it's a good idea. People don't even know.
Yep, that's
Good
fine.
morning again, Commissioners. On the EMS quarterly report, again, standard report to you over budget items, revenue, things of that nature. As you can see, we're doing well on expenditures, trying to hold the line as best we can in regards to expenditures, collecting revenue as appropriate through user fees, and user fees is up where we need to be by 2.4%, which is good. Call volume is basically holding if you look at that for projections and where we're at for statistics. Next few pages are the standard statistics that I provide from the EMS department to you. Again, on page 4 is the geographical location, so you can kind of look at your areas and such on where call volume is. And it pretty much remains consistent throughout the county of where call volume is and where we suspect calls to be happening. Vehicle maintenance, again, we're, knock on wood, doing well in vehicle maintenance where we could or should be for the year. The Advantage, we are going to receive some of those ambulances that we had on order. And actually, I just got a phone call yesterday that our first replacement units should start coming in actually in September. So we may receive one of the trucks in September, potentially even both September, October timeframe. So they're kind of catching up on some of that. But again, we ordered those trucks clear back in 2021, I think, for the 2023 trucks and such. The 2025 is still on track for 2025. So that's, again, when the funding would be available to purchase that truck. But they're going to start working on that truck for us in November, December. So in January, we'll be able to receive that truck first in the fall of 2025. I will be getting back to you and the board to also approve the 2026 unit, which will be a remount as I presented during the budget time frame and our purchasing policy. And that will save some money for us moving forward. You can remount an ambulance box onto a new chassis. There is some cost savings to that. You can only do it once. So it's kind of that Band-Aid fix as we're going through some of these tough times and such, to try to divert some of that money instead of buying brand new right off the bat. So the truck that would replace in 2025 would actually be our 2026 truck. So as soon as we take possession of that in 2025, I want to try to get that out to the factory and get that in line so they can start remounting that. They completely take it off, redo all the hinges, all the lights, all the components of that box, remount it, and then they bring it back. But it's a substantial cost savings to us of about $80,000 to $90,000. So
that's better than buying brand new trucks and such during this time that we may need to divert that money to something else.
I think it was a good idea that you brought forward. That is a big savings.
So that's kind of in the game plan over the next few years, having this opportunity to do that on some of these trucks by having the time frame to do that. We're going to try to take advantage of that opportunity. Some of the other, nothing's really changed in regards to staffing. We were able to hire a paramedic. There's still 5 paramedic positions open. That's catastrophic to us. That means overtime for all the medics. The amount of overtime right now is very difficult to do. Kudos to staff that is volunteering to take on that overtime. But in this heat and tired and such, it's really a rough time. So that still is a large concern for my department. I have heard through the grapevine that I may be losing another paramedic to another agency, which will not help whatsoever in that regard. So that crisis of that I brought up kind of in the last few weeks, it's on the forefront. We need to do something. We need to do it now, sooner than later. We need to get that Band-Aid fix kind of in there until we can really move forward with that. So I'll be working with Mark in regards to what we can do and how we can do and what that's going to look like. But we've got to do something sooner than later, or we are going to start having to adjust services on what that looks like in our county.
Jamie, I hope your staff will appreciate the ones that have stayed on board. I always like people to stay with us, but I hope they're aware that it's not sitting on deaf ears. I mean, we are going to be working through this to the best we can with recommendations from Mark to try to get this addressed, because this number of 5 is not acceptable. We're talking about citizens out in the community. This is unacceptable. My 2 cents, anyway.
The other things, obviously, in the mix of all of that, we're also having to staff the extra unit out at the fair, and operations are moved a little bit for the week. So operations manager is the medical command out at the fair as well as an ambulance, and they're out there in that heat. So we have a presence out there. We were able to get 2 EMTs into paramedic school. They came on. They didn't 100% meet all the requirements and such, but I was able to get with KCK's director down at KCK's program and work through some things. They, lack of better terms, bent over backwards for us to go through the process outside, and willing to allow us to sponsor 2 into the program that starts in August. Again, that's a great thing. Unfortunately, you don't see the benefit from that until 2026. But we have to start that process. We do have one that we will see graduate in May of 2025, but that's not enough to sustain the bleed that we have kind of going on.
And then we still have to backfill when they move into...
Jamie, let me ask you something. I know in police officers, if they don't stay a year after their training, then the agency that picks them up has to reimburse the city to come in. Is that anything with...
Well, the only thing we do is on these, where these employees are sponsored by us, they sign into an agreement with us.
Okay.
So as we sponsor them through that, there's a 3-year commitment back to us.
Okay.
So there is that commitment when we sponsor. If somebody comes, though, on their own or went through paramedics,
Already certified.
there's no
Well,
contractual
the other ones
agreement, not like law enforcement,
Yeah,
where they have to be sponsored from it.
Okay.
The agency. So,
Okay.
any questions
Catch
or
up.
anything I can...
Can you kind of give me a salary comparison, like if you were going to go work in Douglas County or Johnson County, how that lines up with our wage structure?
Sure. I don't have those documents as I did during the budget. We did that analysis for market value, and that's really where that recommendation came from in regards to what we need to get and make that move up. Currently, our medics start right around $64,000 a year, working 2,912 hours, so it's about 832 more hours additional than the standard 40-hour employee has to work. To make that, if they wanted to go to Johnson County Medic or Douglas or one of those, starting salaries in the 70s. So we're about 8,000-ish shy in market value. Someone with the same training, same everything, could go and work in regards to that.
About 10 to 20%, I think.
Yeah. So we're and it's cyclic. Obviously, a few years back, we made some great strides here. It did draw applicants, and we were able to fulfill. We were full time. Not to say that everyone's leaving just because of salary, but that is a large when we talk.
Yeah.
If you can go work somewhere else during these times for $10,000 more, doing the same job, or maybe being less calls because those services have more ambulances, or they don't have to do transfers, they're going to go do that. And that's what we're seeing kind of out the door is when they come in now and work these 24-hour shifts, these employees are not sleeping. They're not down. They're working 24-hour shifts. You look at the call volume that's on there and having the 5 ambulances, the average is 35 calls a day. And the turnaround times and the time to run the call, the average time out on a call is an hour and a half. And you start doing that math and you're going down to KU and you're driving back. These are long shifts.
They're tired.
They're getting tired. And when they get tired, they're going to look somewhere else where they can make more money, running less calls, and moving forward.
I think the HR director, not just your department, made it very clear when she presented what the reason people are leaving. And I think that's the top of the list that we have to make priority. And I think this county commissioners have tried to do that, but we know we're fighting an endless game. It just seems every time we think we get caught up, then the economy just continues to go downhill and everything costs more. So I would hope benefits we're doing pretty good on it. It seems like comparable better, but I know Mark's got a plan. He's working on something to see if we can stop this.
Then we'll move over to health department. Health department this past quarter was really focused on ending out the state's aid to local grants and moving over into the new state year or fiscal year. So we in March, April timeframe, I was in front of you. We signed the aid to locals. Yeah. We did receive back all of our grants, so we didn't lose any grant funding for moving forward. There were a few that were a little bit of an increase, which is good. But we're on track with budget expenditures. We're on track with user fees and grants. User fees look a little low right at the moment, but if you remember, now is our prime time out at it's getting ready for school immunizations and such. So a lot of our revenue is collected during the kind of that third quarter. So we'll keep an eye on that and move forward. We're starting to see our revenue come back post-COVID. Obviously, during COVID timeframe, we weren't able to see a whole lot of the clientele that we needed to, but you can see the trending there from 2021 to now. We're catching back up on where that revenue needs to be in regards to that. We do have a public health nurse that's retiring, and it was very fortunate for us. She gave us plenty of notice. We were able to put it out and look. We were able to already interview, and we have a public health nurse going to start. And there will be some overlap by about 2 or 3 weeks to do some cross-training and such before they come on. So that's kind of a plus for us in regards to the nursing position that's going to vacate. Other things that we were working on are just listed out there for you. The WIC department also just participated in the baby shower, community baby shower. From my understanding, from my WIC coordinator, it was well attended.
It was amazing.
It was very well attended. They did an extraordinary job of getting a lot of resources and put things together for that community baby shower. They have estimated over 75 pregnant moms out there were able to attend that, which is very good for our community.
That's great.
That's great. And then obviously the other thing that I was working on during this was the health assessment contract and trying to get those proposals together, as well as during this last quarter 2 budgets. So it was a busy budgetary kind of quarter for me. But that's all I have unless we have any questions to entertain.
I do not.
Good job.
So I got something, since we're talking about this, probably a good idea to bring this up now. Our ambulance service to Fort Leavenworth. I don't know if staff has been contacted by anybody from there yet, but the MOU between the county and Fort Leavenworth to provide ambulance service up there is up at the end of this year. So I brought it to their attention that I don't think we're going to be able to provide service up there for free anymore. So I reached out to General Beagle and Marcus Major and Mr. McWilliams, a couple other people, and explained this to them that just a quick overview, it costs the county about $6 million a year to run our ambulance service. About $4 million of that is reimbursed by insurance companies, but $2 million is not. So it costs the taxpayers about $2 million to have our ambulance service. Fort Leavenworth pays zero of that $2 million. So I have asked them to split that with us. And so I'm asking $1 million from Fort Leavenworth to help us maintain our ambulance service. So far, they're in agreement to that. They've formed a task force to go over this information. They're probably going to be reaching out to you, but I just want to bring this up to make sure I have a consensus on the board that this is the direction we want to go. Because if we can't get a pilot check in the near future, then I think the only way to handle this is to address individual items as we go. This is due this year. It's obvious.
These things sometimes take a long time to run back to Washington and stuff like that. Was there a time frame that they said?
So the MOU, like I said, is up at the end of this year. So they're hoping their task force can come up with something.
Okay.
And they're the ones that told me this, that we couldn't provide our own ambulance service for $1 million a year.
No.
You know, one ambulance is how much? $1 million. So staffing it and a building and everything else, they're more than willing to figure this out. So
Federal budget's in October, so it'd have to be something done before October.
Well, actually, 25 is when the MOU expires. So I've started this in plenty of time.
25?
I think the mid-October.
It's mid
Their budget, it's like
Okay,
October.
Yeah, so that's why I started this
You got
now.
over a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's why I started this now.
I
so
was
they
going to
can-
say, if you think it's going to be done by this October.
No. And that's why I started this now, so we got plenty of time to
Good.
get into
Glad to hear
it.
that, Jeff.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glad to hear that.
So I'll make sure we're on the same page. So
100%.
you'll probably be contacted pretty soon by that task force to work out the detail. That's all I have.
Did you have something?
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Next, county appraiser.
Morning, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Good morning.
Hear me there. Can you hear me through there?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We have inspected 3,500 parcels so far this year. We get about 3,570. That's just for the 17% reinspection. We'll also have to we'll have more sales. We have to inspect all the sales. We have to measure those, and we'll have to a number of more building permits we'll have to go out on before the end of the year. So we usually end up, somewhere around 22, 23%, somewhere in there of the total parcels in the county we've hit every year. Between all those things, we also still have to go out and review half the county for current use. We have to do that every 2 years for agricultural use. So whether it's crop, whether it's grass, those sorts of things, canopy cover. We have to do that every 2 years. So we'll have, I think we're doing, I believe, north of McIntyre Road this year. We'll be doing that. Still have that yet to do. We have received 888 sales this year. That's up some from last year. You can see over the last few years, still down. 2021 and 2022 were very strong years for sales right after COVID. Really starting right in 2020, right after about June, second half of 2020 through 2022 was really strong for sales. Last year, as interest rates went up, number of sales decreased. We are back up some this year. The average sale price of home is increased. That's 3.5%. That's just an average sale price. That's pretty rough if you're trying to figure a trend, but that just gives you an indication. We looked at what homes have sold for when they sell again. We're going to sell twice over a certain period of time. We throw out anything that has changed in between, people flipping houses, remodeling, those sorts of things. We don't include any of those in our analysis. That we went back to 2022 through 2024 to get enough sales, and that indicated a 6% trend over that time frame. We will run other as we get more and more sales through the year. We'll look at other methods and look at what kind of trends are going on in the market. But it's pretty safe to say the market is not going down at this point. It is not staying the same. It still is moving up now, not at the pace it was a few years ago. Last year we had like a 4.5% trend. Somewhere in there is where we were at. As you can see, the number of building permits are back up some from last year. Still not, and I don't expect them, that 2021 and 2022, I wouldn't expect to go back up to those numbers. Those were numbers we also saw like way back in 2005, 2006 when the market was really strong before the
bubble popped.
So, we also I looked at sales ratio. Here I looked at sales that happened from April, May, June, and July, what we had in there so far. And you can see those ratios county, we're at 91%. Last time I think I gave a quarterly report, when I looked at, we just had March sales, and we were about 96% of March sales. So if you'd included the first part of the year, that number would be up some. But this is just a picture of where we're at now compared to what's selling. And we're in the, some of those are slipping down into the 80s and low 90s. Last year, we were never this low at any point in time. So, the market does seem to be increasing. And it appears to be increasing a little bit more than last year. But we'll see where we're at the end of the year, where the sales indicate we should be at. Any questions?
So this is why I say that I think Bob does a really good job, because by law, PVD's law, he has to appraise properties between 90 and 110% of what they actually sold for.
Yeah.
And so as you can see from his report, he keeps everything right at 90%, the lowest possible legal.
Best you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So consistently, 90%
Yep.
instead of 110. He could be 110 and be in compliance, but he's always right at 90. I don't know how you don't get in trouble, actually, Bob. With PVD. But we appreciate
we're
that.
in compliance.
Yes.
But we appreciate
We
that.
know, Bob.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
For Baser, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Except
Baser's
Baser.
very unpredictable.
The blighted neighborhood.
On your the new set, the sales, as far as geography of where those sales are, is it pretty evenly distributed throughout the county, or is it focused on the Baser, Tonganoxie area, or what would you say?
The most sales we have, just in sheer numbers, not percentage, would be in Leavenworth area because it has the most homes.
Okay.
It's the biggest area, so that's going to be, in the county total, probably it'll carry a lot of weight there. But southern half of the county, at a rate per homes in sales, as far as how many homes there are and how many sales, it might have a disproportionate number of more sales. Newer homes, newer neighborhoods, homes turn over quicker than older neighborhoods generally. And a lot of the southern part of the county is a lot newer, like the Baser area. So the Baser has a fair number of sales. But sheer numbers is always going to be Leavenworth just because of the size.
So as far as a valuation trend for the year, are you seeing a percentage that you could put on it, or as far as how much the average valuations are going to go up in the county?
Well, I'm not putting a number on that right now because we're going to wait and see. That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be higher.
The
than
indications,
last
I
year.
gave you some indications, but those are right now And as we get more information, we'll be able to look at more analysis.
But it looks like a higher trend than last year.
At the moment, it does, but I'm not saying that's the way it's going to end up.
Okay. Unless the economy crashes.
It's an election year, Mike. It's too unpredictable.
All right. On the home improvements, is that tending to be like additions to homes, or or outbuildings, or what's the
building permits?
Yeah.
Those are straight new homes.
Straight
I
new
didn't
homes.
include any remodels,
Oh, you didn't include
anything
those.
else.
Okay.
These are just new for new homes.
Okay. That's all I have.
That's good. Anybody else have anything for Bob? Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
That's all the quarterly reports I have on the schedule. Budget discussions as needed. Do we need?
I had a question going through this. You know, a few years ago, we spent, $700,000 to remodel Cushing for the extension office. And we've spent, bought new furniture.
Yep.
Paid to have it moved.
Yep.
And we were going to save all this money because they're not paying rent, and they've turned in an enhanced budget every year. So why hasn't their budget went down? I mean, we spent almost $1 million with the remodel, their budget, and all the furniture, and we were going to save all this money by them not paying rent. And they turn in an increased budget every year. So where are we saving any money by taking them into Cushing?
Good question.
And they're supplemented by the state.
So,
Not by very much.
and that's what I said. When does this become a county department? When we fund probably what? What do they get from K State? They get 50,000. What do they get?
20% maybe.
I would say we're somewhere around 80%.
80% of their budget. So when does it become a county department? I mean, they have a board. It's elected. I understand that, but it could be advisory board.
Yep.
We can't make that determination.
Because, your theory was get all these people not paying rent, we're going to save all this money. We haven't saved one dime on this one.
On the extension.
Yeah.
Council on
Council on
Aging
Aging
may
may have,
Yeah.
but still. I mean, they went from paying rent, paying utilities, to coming here to the county, and we provide them a building, no rent, and we pay the utilities. And they increase their budgets every year.
Inflation.
It didn't inflate that much.
Didn't seem like it would.
Well, I think the thing is when you start paying the majority of it, that you probably should have better control than what we
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. I mean, if it was a business and you own 51% of the stock, you might have controlling interest.
I think so.
And then, so with that, if you add the fair premium, fair building, that's 68 and 12, that's 80,000, and they wanted 279 at the extension, which is kind of 4H. That's almost $360,000 for the two organizations. So, just throw it out there for budget discussions.
We will, but right now we're
And
having
then,
the fairness
we
fund.
just approved a $300,000 deal for the courthouse today, just to tell us what needs to be done. I'm telling you, my jackhammer theory still stands. Jackhammer the ledge off and call it good, put up some gutters,
Paint it.
I agree.
But that's a historic building.
We're trying to see if that's an option. Anybody else have anything?
That's just my 2 cents.
Budgetary wise?
Or 300 and some thousand worth. My 2 cents worth.
Mark, is there any update on the budget that's come up since we talked last, or anything you want to share with us?
Well, since Bob was in here and we have his report in front of us, and you can see that the average sale price of a home is $330,000. That's not necessarily the average value of a home, because a lot of homes aren't selling in the county. It's the average sale price. Just since it's here and it's easy then to use, and we talk about mill levies, and people don't maybe understand what a mill levy is. And that's an amount we levy per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Assessed valuation is not appraised valuation. There's a percentage that you apply to it. But just to get through all of that and not do the math, roughly $36 to $37 per mill is what one of those average sale price homes would pay. So every mill that any taxing entity levies, whether it's your school, your library, your township, or the county, for each one mill, it's about $36 a year on one of those average sale price homes of $330,000. When I see those things, I just kind of like.
Well, I think, Mark, I think that's when people hear the word mill levy, something like that, everyone panics because that's a. But if you understand the formula and what you're getting, the county's giving for dollars a month, what you're providing, even if we have to discuss going up a little bit, that's still a great deal. It's not like we're going up $500 a month. We're going up $8 a year, $12 a month, all the way up, or depending on what the value of your house is. But it's nothing like the threat when you hear, oh, the mill levy's going up. That's not the way it works.
Leavenworth County has the 7th lowest mill levy in the state of Kansas out of 105 counties.
No.
You only have 6 counties that pay less of a mill levy than Leavenworth County.
But I think it's important to know what that mill levy you get for it and what the real dollar is that a person has to pay on property tax for their home. And it's not like the things you hear from other people. The mill levy's going up, and it's going to be another $600 or $1,000 a month. It's nothing, nowhere even near that. It's really just change so we can keep the ambulances running, so we can keep all these things we've got here. So, you know, that's something we have to look at. The inflation's not going down, at least not underneath the present people in D.C. So we've got to pay our bills.
So one mill this year is approximately 1.2 million. Is that about right?
It's a little less than
1.1.
Yeah, it's about 1.1, yeah.
The 1.1. So that's when folks, and our mill is about, for the county, last year is about 37 mills.
And that's why I brought that up.
Yeah.
You listen to some of these people saying, oh, Leavenworth County has the highest mill levy in the state of Kansas. It's absolutely not true. 7th lowest mill levy, county mill levy in the state of Kansas out of 105.
The provocateur.
It's one of the most tax-exempt property counties.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is we shouldn't be the 7th lowest. With 50% property tax exempt, we should be around 40 or 50th mill levy.
Well, what is the board's thoughts on additional sales tax to help fund roads or something? I mean, we'd have to go to the legislature. Am I correct on that? We'd have to ask if we could
You have to have
additional
special
sales.
legislation passed that would allow you to exceed the limit on sales tax.
You know, Basher's talking about going out for another sales tax because the 1 cent one failed there a while back, and then they're going to go for a 3/4 cent sales tax and try that, and it was going to be busted out, 25% park, 25% street, 25% law enforcement. So,
Well, Commissioner, I think when we have the budget hearing,
It's the things we can talk about.
any budget discussions, we've talked about the 911 thing, and I'm working with emergency management who manages that fund, trying to get to a real number on what we can expect going forward. And one of the things I think that we should propose with that is that there be a special sales tax specifically for 911. And Chuck was here and he laid out the problem with that fund, and that is it was based on an old calculation when everybody had a landline.
Yeah.
The new calculation is everybody who has an account pays the same amount, and it's a little less than you used to pay when there was a landline. So, like for my account, I'll just use me. I have cell phones, and I have 5 cell phones on my account. I pay the same fee as I would have paid if I only had one landline, instead of 5 fees, and that's just the way it works. I'm not taking advantage of the system. That's the way the system works.
I didn't know it. I got 4.
The digital phone systems. So it used to be if you had 57 phone numbers, every one of those numbers had a line coming into your building, and you paid a 911 fee for all those. Well, now those lines are handled digitally in your system, so you only pay a fee on what's coming into your building. Once it's split out here digitally, we don't pay a fee on that. So it's just going to continue to get worse. The amount of revenue coming in, I guess that's the point. The amount of revenue coming in off that 911 fee is going to continue to go down. The expenditures, like everything else, are going to continue to go up. Maintaining those systems is going to go up. So we need to have a more stabilized revenue source for that. And I think that's probably something we ought to look at. Is,
Well, Mark,
a sales tax for that, because it's very specific, and I think people could understand it and support it, that I'm going to pay this extra sales tax, but it's going specifically to this.
it's a user fee. And if you want to use the thing, you should be paying for it. And by doing what you're saying, something like that, people have the choice on the phones and things like that. But if you're going to have one cost and cover a bunch of different items, we're not going to go forward. We're going to continue going down the wrong path. And it's changed so much in the last 20 years.
Does that require legislative approval to do that as well?
It would require legislative approval, because you need special legislation to
I think they like us.
do a sales tax. And then it would also require a vote of the citizens.
public,
So
right.
if you get the legislative approval, you're only getting the approval to put it on a ballot for the county to vote on.
That's not going to happen in one session.
No,
That
that's
takes 2 or 3 sessions for
At
that.
least.
If you could get them to adopt the special legislation, which is questionable, in next year, let's say, so 2025, you still have to get it put together and put it on a ballot initiative. So you're talking, you would get it on you might be able to get it on the ballot in late 2025, and then you could start collecting potentially in 26 if everything fell in place perfectly. More than likely, it will take more than 1 year to get it through Topeka, in which case you're looking at maybe 2027.
You still got to make the effort. I mean, it's somewhat of a
You never
solution.
know. They could pass legislation that the state would pick it up.
Well, they can pass
wouldn't have to do
legislation
that.
overnight.
Then I need that
Don't have a heart attack.
If they
defibrillator.
want to.
Maybe we should call it.
Blood pressure just went up again, too.
Yeah, we do star ball and star line
Overnight.
Say
Okay.
that because somebody's going to try to dial that.
Okay. Anything else we need to talk about budget-wise?
I think that's enough.
Not. We'll go
No,
down.
that's just my take.
Yep.
I think we have a lot of thinking.
Yeah, we do, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we're going to go around and talk about what we did, aren't we?
Oh, I'm
Go ahead,
ready
Mike.
to go home.
Did you do anything last week you need to
Go ahead.
share with us?
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Talking to lots of people. Have a good fair. If you're coming down the fair, see us at the
Yep.
booth. And
He's carnival.
having a meeting at Easton at the church town hall on Sunday night.
Let's see. This past week, I participated in the KCATA Board of Directors meeting, and there was a lot of discussion around the free fare, which Leavenworth County doesn't participate in that, but it's quite the hot topic in the Kansas City area. And then on Thursday, both Commissioner Stephen and I participated in the sequential intercept mapping training, and it was really good. It was a lot of good dialogue, a lot of people involved that came in from all different disciplines, and I think the result is very positive. Let's see. Then I attended the Buffalo Soldier ceremony on Friday morning, which was just really neat and enjoyable. And then we had the community baby shower on Saturday, and it was well attended, and the expectant families were really having a nice time.
Yeah.
And there was all of the people who came got a portable crib for their newborns to keep them in the room with them and safe. And there were different organizations that were represented there to provide support for new family members. And then last evening, instead of the fair parade, I attended the CASA's 30th anniversary celebration. It was really neat, and Melissa Etheridge was one of the guests.
That's cool.
That came and to support the occasion and the event. So it was a really
That's cool.
nice time.
Yeah.
That was it.
I don't have anything, Chair.
Other than I met with the task force for Leavenworth over the EMS situation this last week, and then tomorrow we're meeting at Parkville.
Are we doing it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow too.
Okay, I didn't know.
You didn't have that on your schedule?
You were going to get back with me.
Okay.
Tomorrow at 2?
Yep, tomorrow.
Are you going to come up here and we ride together? Or
Yeah.
Is that out of the way?
No.
Okay.
I'll just come by here and grab it.
Okay, what time?
1:30.
1:30 is good.
Okay.
That sounds good.
That's all I got. Doug?
Baker City Council last week and Fairmount Township meeting last week. Friday is morning senior day at the fair.
Yes,
so
it is.
Make sure, I think we all qualify for that.
Hopefully it won't be
Yeah,
miserably
no.
hot for
Yeah,
our seniors
it
to
is.
participate. Make sure you bring
Under 10,
fans.
so. Motion to adjourn?
Second? Voting?
Aye.
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 Adjourned.